Hello and welcome again to Lore of the Cards, the series that looks to find the lore hidden within your Hearthstone deck. We are once again returning to the Blackrock Mountain to discover the secrets of its second wing, the Molten Core, home to perhaps one of the most infamous legendaries in Hearthstone, Ragnaros the Firelord. In our last episode on Blackrock Depths, we found out that it was Ragnaros' earth-shattering arrival into Azeroth that had created the Blackrock Mountain, released from his prison in the Firelands by the dwarf sorcerer thane Tharisan of the Dark Iron clan. But why was Ragnaros imprisoned? And what force could possibly be strong enough to restrain such a being of uncontrollable rage? The world of Azeroth is one among many in the Warcraft universe, a world of great beauty where a majority of the stories in Warcraft play out. However, Azeroth used to look very different. Before any of the races Hearthstone players are familiar with walk the earth, ogres, elves, humans and Tauren to name but a few, Azeroth was dominated by the old gods and the elementals. The old gods are horrifying beings of supreme power that thrive in chaos, and Azeroth reflected that. The unstable planet was constantly consumed by war, the old gods throwing their elemental armies at one another, each group being led by an elemental lord. Therazane led the earth elementals, Alakir wind, Neptulon water, and Ragnaros was the Lord of Fire. This all came to an end when Azeroth received a visit from a race known as the Titans. These metallic giants sought to bring order to the universe and looked to do the same for Azeroth. They waged war on the old gods and the elementals, coming out victorious, imprisoning those they had defeated. To prevent the elementals damaging Azeroth, they were banished to an elemental plane that had been created by the Titans for this specific purpose. Each elemental lord carved out their own empire within this plane. It was in the Firelands that Ragnaros stayed bound until Tharisan's call. It was not just Ragnaros that came to Azeroth, but many of the Firelord's minions spilled over as well when their master arrived. Many now reside in the epicenter of Ragnaros' entry, the Molten Core. This realm of searing heat goes even deeper into the earth than the Blackrock Depths, and acts as a rift between Azeroth and the Firelands, Ragnaros' servants able to pass between realms. Within the molten pool at the centre of the core, Ragnaros sleeps. Weakened by his entry, the Great Elemental is unable to stray from his pool and slowly gathers his strength. When he is ready, the Firelord looks to return to his flaming kingdom and claim Azeroth as part of it, igniting the world in eternal flame. Without Ragnaros leading the Firelands, the most powerful elementals there remain locked in civil war, trying to lay claim to Ragnaros' throne. If the Firelord returned, none of the other elementals would dare stand up to him. To help the Firelord achieve his goal, he has discovered how to breathe life into solid stone, an art first used by the Titans. Under the watchful eye of his minions, the Dark Iron Dwarves carve golems out of the Blackrock Mountain. With an army of these stone golems at his command, Ragnaros first aims to claim all of the Blackrock Mountain, including its peak, which currently lies in the hands of the Black Dragonflight, and then march his golem and elemental army across the face of Azeroth. In World of Warcraft, heroes ventured into the Molten Core to stop Ragnaros from achieving his goals before he could reach his full strength. Molten Core is one of the oldest raids in the game, and when it was first released, 40 top level players were needed to conquer the horrors that awaited within. Core Hounds, Flame Wakers and Molten Giants were only a few of the creatures that would test the raid. Like Blackrock Depths, the Molten Core also boasts a large amount of bosses, 10 in total, and the Hearthstone team have had to restrict themselves to only 3 for the Adventure Wing. I'm going to briefly give a background to those that didn't make it, because a few of them are already linked to cards in Hearthstone. The Gargantuan core hound Magmadar is one of Ragnaros' favoured pets, and is father to all the core hounds that roam the Molten Core. When Ragnaros was imprisoned in the Firelands, he would feed those that stood against him to the eager open maw of Magmadar. As a result, the canine has become fiercely loyal to his master, tearing apart all those that dare step into the Molten Core. Magmadar is linked to 2 cards in Hearthstone. Firstly, he is more than likely the father of the legendary beast. The regular Corehound card can also be linked back to Magmadar. These Corehounds act as guard dogs, patrolling round the Molten Core. Again, Magmadar is their father. You can see these flaming beasts in the early stages of their life too. In Magmadar's chamber, he is protected by several groups of younger Corehounds. They may be young relatively speaking, but are not to be underestimated. When one dies, the flames of their brothers and sisters will ignite them back to life. So if one is to die, they all must die. Mag the Incinerator was thought to be one of the more likely encounters to be included within the Molten Core wing by the community, one of Ragnaros' most feared soldiers and his most powerful Molten Giant. It is Art of Golmag that is used for the Molten Giant card in Hearthstone. Molten Giants are such powerful fire elementals that Shaman are forbidden to summon them. The glowing elementals are far too unpredictable and often cause more damage than good. Golmag is deeply hated by Magmadar, as the giant used his considerable strength to bend 2 of the Corehound's savage offspring to his will, and now uses them as his attack dogs. To tame a Corehound is completely against its nature, but the 2 beasts are now loyal to their master. And in the World of Warcraft encounter, Golmag's presence inspires them to fight harder. Golmag's pets are called Core Ragers, the new Hunter card, and the card's mechanics can be loosely linked to his fight. If the Hunter is in trouble, being out of cards, the Core Rager gets a considerable buff. In World of Warcraft, if Golmag still lived, the Core Ragers could not die, refusing to let their master fall. The rest of the non-included bosses are Flamewakers, art of one of them being used for the new Flamewaker card. The black-skinned Lucifer roams the chamber of Magmadar with 2 lesser Flamewakers, entrusted by the Firelord to defend his pet. The orange-skinned Geddon is untrusted by all others in the Molten Core, bar his 2 guards, as this elemental will do anything to rise above his station and gain Ragnaros' favour. In the trading card game, Geddon's card had 2 sides with different art, one side being used for the Flamewaker and the other as a certain legendary someone lurking in the background. The blue-skinned Shazra is one of Ragnaros' only minions that possesses a great understanding of the arcane magic school. Finally, the second most powerful Flamewaker in Ragnaros' realm, Sulfuran Harbinger. Another orange-skinned Waker, Sulfuran commands all Flamewaker operations outside the Molten Core and keeps a close eye on Shazra, as he believes this deceitful Waker intends to betray Ragnaros. He commands a small force of some of Ragnaros' most dedicated priests within the core. So, now we have an idea of all the excluded bosses and how they link to Hearthstone, let's take a look at the most feared amongst Ragnaros' minions, the 3 that you will have to outwit in the Hearthstone adventure. The first will be one of Ragnaros' most powerful lieutenants, Garv the Larva Elemental. Unlike a lot of the elementals that roam within the Molten Core, Gar is a conglomerate elemental. These elementals are often made up of 2, 3 and sometimes even 4 different elemental types. This occurs when elementals adapt to several regions of the elemental plane. For example, ice elementals are of water and air, sandstorm are made of earth, fire and water, and arcane elementals are made up of all 4 elemental types. Lava elementals are a conglomerate of earth and fire, adapted to Ragnaros' realm of the Firelands and Therazane's realm, Deepholm. While lava elementals look as if they're made of solid stone, in actuality they are made purely of molten lava, giving their bodies a fluid-like consistency. It would appear most lava elementals prefer to reside within Ragnaros' domain, the volatile firelands suiting their violent nature more than that of the comparatively serene Deepholm. Despite answering to Ragnaros as their ruler, lava elementals do not get on with pure fire elementals, their aggressive natures clashing with one another. Lava elementals are highly territorial and will fight to keep hold of that territory, reacting with aggression to all that step into it, even fire elementals. It's likely for this reason that Gar is the commander of these dangerous elementals. It's unlikely the lava elementals would take orders from one of pure flame. As one of Ragnaros' main lieutenants, Gar is directly responsible for the Firelord's increased influence across Azeroth. In the Molten Core raid in WoW, Gar surrounds himself with his steadfast Firesworn, and his influence can be seen throughout the entire raid, lava elementals being present in every area of it. When fought, Gar was joined by his Firesworn. Despite their diminutive size, they could still pack a punch, casting immolation on the raid, searing their flesh over time. Even when they were killed, the unstable Firesworn would erupt, causing huge area damage to all that surrounded them. Gar himself is also a proficient hand-to-hand combatant, capable of weakening entire armies. Gar's anti-magic pulse removes magical benefits from his foes, and he can place magma shackles upon them, preventing them from running from his devastating assault. In Hearthstone, Gar's hero power originates from the battle players experience with him in the Cataclysm expansion. When Gar was defeated in the Molten Core, he was not slain, but banished back to the elemental plane. When the boundaries between the elemental plane and Azeroth were weakened during the Cataclysm, Ragnaros once again mounted another assault upon Azeroth, and Gar joined him. The lava elemental could once again be found with his Firesworn, patrolling outside the Sulfuran Spire, which acted as an entrance to Ragnaros' fortress in the Firelands. In his new encounter, Gar had learnt another trick, a technique called Massive Eruption. Like his Firesworn, Gar too could now create a devastating eruption around him, but unlike his Firesworn, he did not have to die to trigger his ability. In Hearthstone, Gar's hero power is Magma Pulse, which deals damage to all minions on the board, much like his Massive Eruption in World of Warcraft. The second encounter is against an elemental that all Hearthstone players are likely familiar with, the legendary Baron Geddon. Geddon is one of the oldest and most powerful fire elementals amongst Ragnaros' army. When Azeroth was ruled over by the old gods and the elemental lords were at the height of their power, Geddon was Ragnaros' right hand, his most trusted commander. When the Titans came to reshape Azeroth from a world of chaos to one of order, Ragnaros sent Geddon against this new enemy. Geddon's army was utterly crushed by the Titans, and the proud elemental was forced into an embarrassing retreat. Furious with Geddon's defeat at the hands of what he assumed was a weaker foe, Ragnaros immediately demoted the Baron. After all, nothing had been able to withstand the Firelord's armies before this. The creature that he put in Geddon's place was an elemental of flesh and blood. Geddon was infuriated by his replacement. Being an elemental of pure flame, he was considered a noble amongst those that inhabited the Firelands. To be replaced by an elemental of flesh was an insult. If anything, replacing Geddon increased his allegiance to Ragnaros, as the Baron now does all that he can to win back his master's favour. Geddon was responsible for masterminding a scheme to defeat Prince Thunderan the Windseeker, aided by Gar and Ragnaros. Thunderan was a very powerful wind elemental, and thought to be the son of Alakir the Windlord. In the chaos of battle, Geddon was able to lure the Windseeker from his allies, where Ragnaros, Gar and Geddon engaged him in combat. Thunderarm put up a commendable fight against 3 of the Fireland's most powerful, but in the end was overwhelmed, Ragnaros striking him down with his mighty hammer, Sulfurus. Geddon had come up with this plan to feed his master. Ragnaros consumed Thunderarm's essence, and with this his already impressive strength grew. However, the Windseeker was more powerful than the fire elementals gave him credit. Gorged on his essence, Ragnaros could consume no more. Thunderarm was not fully defeated. To prevent the wind elemental from reforming, Ragnaros placed his essence into a talisman and split it in half. He gave one half to each of his lieutenants that had aided him, one to Geddon and one to Gar. Despite this major victory, Geddon was not reinstated as Ragnaros' right hand, and to this day he seeks to win back his position. Over the centuries, Geddon became suspicious of Gar, suspecting that the other elemental sought to bring the talisman together to become more powerful, putting a strain on a once close partnership. In fact, it is Geddon's colleague Shazra that fuels the Baron's suspicions, but it is he that wishes to claim both pieces of the talisman for himself, using his mastery of the arcane to siphon its energies. It is likely Ragnaros knows of Shazra's treacherous tendencies, and for this reason, he split the talisman. Geddon patrols through the corridors of the Molten Core at blistering speed, and could engage World of Warcraft heroes in several areas if they were not careful. Many of Geddon's attacks were designed to harm several members in the raid at one time. Inferno created a fiery pulse around Geddon, heavily damaging all those that stood near him, an ability very similar to the Hearthstone card. Geddon was able to turn players into living bombs, causing them to explode, damaging all around them. Not only this, the explosion would also fling the hero high up into the air. In his Hearthstone encounter, Geddon makes use of his ability Ignite Mana. In WoW, this ability would drain the hero's mana, while also doing damage to them. The damage was equivalent to the amount of mana drained. Geddon's Hearthstone ability has a similar effect, damaging the enemy hero for 5 if they have not been able to spend all their mana on their turn. In World of Warcraft, players that defeated Geddon and Gar had a small chance of obtaining the 2 halves of the talisman Thunderarm was imprisoned in. After a long questline and the 2 halves being brought back together, Thunderarm lived again, and players had the opportunity to defeat him and gain his legendary weapon, Thunder Fury. Like Gar, Geddon made a return in Cataclysm, leading Ragnaros' forces from the front. Since Geddon is so powerful, several Archdruids were needed to bind the elemental. Geddon was still able to attack those that bound him, but was unable to move. In WoW, players were given a quest to weaken Geddon, so that he could not escape from the Druid's bindings. And finally, we come to our last encounter of the Molten Core. Ragnaros' right hand, the elemental that is said to have replaced Baron Geddon, the Flamewaker Majordomo Executus. Not much is known about the Flamewakers, the only elementals of flesh and blood, but it is Executus that rules them all. Being second to the Firelord means you make a lot of powerful enemies, the person you supplanted for one. All other Flamewakers in the Molten Core follow Executus' orders and bide their time, hoping their leader will make a mistake so that they can become their master's favoured. Executus knows this and does not make mistakes. Executus earned his position with his prowess in battle, proving to be near invincible in combat. Any other elementals that dared cross Ragnaros, Executus would quickly show them the meaning of defeat. In the Molten Core raid, Executus is the second last encounter, and it is he who must be defeated before the encounter with Ragnaros. But Executus, as he has always been, is very careful, only revealing himself when he is the last line of the Firelord's defence. All bosses in the Molten Core, except Lucifer, draw their considerable powers from the runes of warding. These runes must be doused to draw Executus out of hiding. The Majordomo enters the instance with his entourage, determined to hunt down those that dare invade his master's realm. Executus's prowess in battle is no myth, and in the Molten Core raid he is literally invincible, being able to call upon the Aegis of Ragnaros, absorbing huge quantities of damage and healing him to full life. The only way of defeating Executus was to make him submit, by killing all 8 of his bodyguards. This host of bodyguards is represented in Hearthstone by his hero ability, the Majordomo, summoning a 1/3 Flamewaker to the battlefield. With his guard defeated, Executus drew on a power that only he is gifted with, the ability to summon Ragnaros from the belly of the Molten Core. It is this power that is represented in his personal card in Hearthstone. However, summoning his master before he had realised his true power proved to be Executus's first and last mistake.
Behold Ragnaros the Firelord, he who was ancient when this world was young. Bow before him, mortals. Bow before your ending. Too soon. You have awakened me too soon, Executus. What is the meaning of this intrusion? These mortal infidels, my lord. They have invaded your sanctum and seek to steal your secrets. Fool. You allowed these insects to run rampant through the hallowed core. Now you lead them to my very lair? You have failed me, Executus. Justice shall be met indeed.
So, there you have it. The lore of Wing 2 of the Blackrock Mountain adventure, the Molten Core. Next episode, we look at the base of operations of the Dark Horde, the Blackrock Spire. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, subscriptions, shares, always good. All artists I've been able to find are credited in the description below, so check out more of their awesome work. Until next time, happy Hearthstoning, and I'll see you for more Lore of the Cards.